The question now is, will the Republican Party have a civil war over the nature of the party? And I think we're beginning to see rumblings of that. The problem is, to have a civil war, you actually have to have two sides. The Tea Party has a side. They have a political movement. They have a think tank. They have a donor base. The other side, the Republicans who want to be able to compete in California, in New York, along the East Coast, and in Illinois, they don't have a side. They have American Crossroads, a PAC. They have a cocktail party.
Welcome back to Harvard. That was New York Times columnist David Brooks yesterday on Meet the Press. We're seeing actually a civil war emerge in the Republican Party these days, and the Tea Party wing is gaining the upper hand, as he put it. Well, this morning, President Obama's former speechwriter John Favreau wrote in the Daily Beast that the Tea Party is the most destructive force in American politics today. Quote, "What makes the Tea Party dangerous is its members' willful disregard for the most basic tenets of American democracy. They do not believe in the legitimacy of our president. They do not believe in the legitimacy of decisions handed down by our Supreme Court. They have never, not once, shown a willingness to compromise on anything. Merely uttering the word is enough to draw a primary challenge." The Favreau argues that in the best interest of Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike, the Tea Party needs to be defeated. Well, joining me right now is Matt Kibbe, CEO of the Tea Party group Freedom Works, and the Daily Beast, Michael Tomasky. Matt Kibbe, your party has certainly gained the attention of the American people. I would argue it's not all good attention. I would argue that for the first time in American politics that I can remember, the alternative to the government in power has been on display. We have seen the tactics of the Tea Party movement. We've seen the threat of a government shutdown and the reality of it for more than 2 weeks. We have watched the threat of a default on the national debt. We have watched it all. We have watched the angry face of people supporting that tactic. I don't think it's been a good sales pitch. Do you?
Well, I think it's difficult to be the guys that come to Washington, D.C. and try to stop the bipartisan insanity of borrowing so much money we don't have, of moving ahead with a program that nobody seems to think will work, and yet we're going to fund it. That's where the Tea Party is. It's not a political party, by the way. This is a social movement based on a set of crazy ideas like we shouldn't spend money we don't have.
Why has it gotten such a bad blasting in the polls? Why do you read the polls? I guess you can deny them all, but everything I've read says you guys don't look that good. We don't like what we see.
Yeah, we've definitely been trashed in the polls, and I think you've helped do that. I think a lot.
But I don't control the polls, Matt. You know that.
Oh, come on.
I can't.
Come on.
No, I disagree. Our influence here is probably marginal. We affect some people, perhaps, in their thinking, perhaps. But the idea that the main body of the American people is affected in its thinking by one or two TV stations, I think is wrong. I don't think the American people are moved that dramatically by an opinion I express. They generally have their own thinking, and they are independent in their thinking. I think, don't you? Don't you think the American people are independent in their thinking?
I agree with that, too, and there's plenty of
Well, then why do you
sources.
accuse me of controlling the national opinion?
No, I say you're one of many voices that don't quite understand why we have to do things differently in Washington, D.C. You remember, you should remember this.
Wait a minute, let me ask you this. What's wrong with having a regular system of voting on spending bills where you vote for appropriations or vote against them? You have the president veto them or not, or sign them. You have a budget resolution which guides spending and priorities and fiscal policies. You agree to it or don't. This past year has been a disaster. There's been no budget resolution agreed to. Cruz had something to do with the two budget committees not even meeting, the failure to pass appropriations on time, the failure to have anything passed by October 1st, and then the disastrous 2 or 3 weeks of a government shutdown. Do you think that's good government?
No, I think it's bad government, but I'm reminded
whose fault was it?
Tip O'Neill shut down the government 12 times.
No, let's not go into that. I know all that history. Please, Matt, don't go into it. These are 1 or 2 times that didn't even hardly make the newspapers. They were not significant. They were not about the fundamental question of you. Nothing happened back in those. I was there the whole time, Matt. There was nothing like a government shutdown based upon getting rid of a president's primary accomplishment in office, which was a direct shot at the person. It was nothing as fundamental as this stuff. Believe me on this. It was not fundamental.
I thought Tip O'Neill used it to go after Star Wars. Wasn't that Reagan's
Let me just tell you,
achievement?
Matt, I'm going to tell you something. The average length of those shutdowns, if you want to call them that, first of all, we passed appropriations in those days. Let me give you some history if you want to get into this. We passed most of the appropriations by October 1st. A CR, a continuing resolution, only affected that part of government that had not been appropriated. There's nothing like today. Today we don't do any appropriations. We shut down the entire, it is a government shutdown, not several agencies, the U.S. government. So it's a totally different environment. You have to go back to 1994 to 95, where you have a government shutdown with very few appropriations passed, but nothing even like today where everything gets shut down. It's different in content, and it's different in duration, certainly in duration. It wasn't until Newt came along that we shut down for 26 days, and it's certainly different in the fundamental quality of it. One party against another fighting to the death like this, and you know that. You're probably very proud of the fact this is the most dramatic shutdown.
No, I agree with everything you just said about the dysfunction of the budget process, and I do think we need to start choosing priorities in Washington, D.C. The question is, who's willing to do it? And
well, the Congress that's elected is supposed to do it, and they get elected to do it.
From my perspective, the Tea Party has actually brought a rational conversation. And the only savings achieved through the sequester came not because the Democrats wanted to do it, not because the Republicans wanted to do it, but because the American people insisted on it. Thank God that somebody showed up in that fight, and it wasn't Washington, D.C.
Okay, let me go to Mike and Tomasky. I have a different point of view because I think things could be solved by negotiation. I saw it done with Social Security. I saw it done with tax reform. It can be done. You don't have to go to total war like this. But I think Matt believes in total war, and I get his message. He's a Tea Partier. Your thoughts, Matt? Michael.
Yeah, they all believe in total war, and that's why the graphic you showed while Corn and Feynman were on of Cruz voting against absolutely everything, even only one of three to vote against John Kerry, because you have to take an absolutist line on every possible issue. And Matt Kibbe talks about spending, and I know that's a Tea Party priority, but he makes it sound so nice and anodyne and, you know, like we're the only sensible people here. Well, there are other aspects of the Tea Party too, Chris, as you know, and the Tea Party is fueled by a lot of antagonism, a lot of cultural rage, a lot of inflexibility on a whole lot of issues, and people sense that. People see that. People know how they talk and feel about Obama, and that's why they're at 21%.
This is really a fight on the right and center right. Do you think we should dump, as a country, Mitch McConnell, Thad Cochran, Lindsey Graham, Lamar Alexander, and Pat Roberts as senators?
I do think we should upgrade from a lot of these Republicans that haven't done what it takes to get this done. And
so in other words, that's nice language for let's dump these guys. You said upgrade. I don't know what that means. Does that mean get rid of them?
Oh, we're in the process of repopulating the Republican Party with people that stand for something. This same fight happened in 76.
Upgrading and repopulating. How's that different than dumping?
The same thing happened when Ronald Reagan stepped onto the national scene in 1976. The GOP establishment hated it. Right. Ronald Reagan became the new standard for what a Republican was.
And what's the new standard now?
The new standard is the same values that elected the House in 2010. Stop spending money we don't have. Stop forcing people into a healthcare system they don't want. And start getting Washington out of our lives. That's our message. That's what's going to win in 2014.
And do you think that your party's going to be taking, the movement of the Tea Party is going to take over the Republican Party? Is that your goal?
That's absolutely our goal.
And when do you think you'll achieve that goal of takeover, when it will be the Tea Party-controlled Republican Party rather than the old Republican Party, the establishment? When will that happen?
Oh, I think it's a process. I think it probably happens by 2014 because we're trying to shift the center of gravity. And I'm all for more moderate Republicans in blue states, in purple states. But in South Carolina, we should have a hardcore constitutional conservative that doesn't want to spend money we don't have.
Okay, you want to dump Lindsey Graham. Let me go back to Michael Tomasky, who covers this. Michael, this is a direct statement, I haven't heard it put so clearly, of a direct attempt to dump all moderate Republicans from red states, get rid of anybody sort of a mainstream conservative like Lindsey Graham, and replace them all with Tea Parties, only allowing moderates, as Matt said so beautifully, in states like New Jersey. They will allow a Chris Christie to be governor of New Jersey, but he better not show his face anywhere in the South or in the conservative Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, but it's delusional also. I mean, they're not going to elect any Republicans in states like New York and California. I mean, you remember, Chris, it was only 15, 20 years ago the Republican Party was competitive to dominant in California, but it's dead. It's dead because it's gone so far right, and it's going to stay dead in states like California and New York. So all they're going to do is play in these deep red states, and they're going to elect more and more radical and extreme people, and that's all they're going to have.
Matt, last question. What's more important to you personally, to take over the Republican Party by the Tea Party or Republican victory in the presidential election of 2016? What's more important to you?
I think they're the same. I think establishment Republicans have been losing presidential contests for most of my life.
But if you had to choose between taking over the party and winning the general election, would you rather take over the party and lose now and win later?
It's a false choice. I don't think another version of Bob Dole is going to win in 2016.
Who's the last great candidate you've had in your party you've accepted?
The last great candidate? It's going to be someone like Ted Cruz or Rand Paul.
No, who was the last one you accept as a leader of the Tea Party movement in the United States government?
Oh, Ronald
Who's the
Reagan.
last president? Okay,
Ronald
thank
Reagan.
you. Thank you very much,
Big
Matt.
spender.
Thank you, Matt Kibbe, and thank you, Michael Tomasky.